Captain Yuan stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, staring at the screen before her. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction, but something was wrong. A weak signal pulsed through the darkness, calling for help. She had been exploring this sector for 3 months, mapping unknown systems for Earth's United Space Coalition. This was the first time they had encountered anyone else. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal," said Lieutenant Mina from her station. "It's not in any language our computers recognize." Yuan leaned forward. "Where is it coming from?" 2 million kilometers ahead. "The ship is badly damaged. Life signs are weak?" Yuan didn't hesitate. "Take us there." Maximum speed. The Dauntless moved through space like a silver arrow. Within minutes, they found the source of the signal. A strange vessel tumbled through the void, trailing debris and atmosphere. It looked nothing like human ships. The hull was covered in organic-looking curves, as if it had been grown rather than built. Dr. Hyun-woo appeared on the bridge, his tablet in hand. "Captain, we're looking at our first real alien contact. This is incredible." "This is a rescue," Jawan corrected him. "Mina, can we dock with them?" "Their airlock is damaged, but we can attach an emergency tube." "I'm reading 73 life forms aboard. They're all weakening." Jiwon activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands prepare for first contact and rescue operations. Medical teams to the docking bay. Let's move." 20 minutes later, Jiwon walked through the emergency tube into the alien ship. The air smelled strange, like flowers and rain. The walls glowed with a soft blue light. She found the survivors huddled in what looked like a cargo bay. They were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They wore simple robes and looked terrified. One of them stepped forward, an older individual with white markings on their face. They made a series of clicking sounds and gestures. Heinwu's translation device beeped and flickered. "Trying to process the language. Double quotes. Please. Dying. Dying. Dying." The words came through broken and slow, but the meaning was clear. "We're here to help," Jawan said slowly, pointing to her medical team. "We won't hurt you." The older alien's legs buckled. Jiwon caught them before they fell. The alien's skin was cold to the touch. "Get them to medical bay now," she ordered. "Over the next 6 hours." The medical team of the Dauntless worked to save the aliens. Hyunwoo discovered they were called the Velrin. They breathed oxygen like humans and had similar biology in many ways. But they were starving and sick. Many had injuries from attacks, not just from their ship's damage. Jiwon sat across from the Velrin leader, whose name translated to Keeper Thillis. The translation device was working better now, learning their language with each word. "What happened to you?" Jiwon asked. Thillis's large eyes filled with what looked like tears. "Our home is gone, destroyed. The Drakthal Empire came to our world 3 cycles ago. They demanded we surrender, become their servants. We refused. They burned our cities, killed millions. Those of us who escaped have been running ever since." "Who are the Drakthal?" "Predators, warriors. They conquer weak species and enslave them. They see kindness as weakness. They saw us as prey." Thillis gripped the table. "They hunt us still. They will never stop." Jiwon felt something cold settle in her chest. "How many of your people escaped?" "Perhaps 20,000, scattered across a dozen refugee ships. We are all that remains of a civilization that numbered 3 billion. The weight of those words hung in the air. Hyunwoo, standing nearby, looked sick. Mina's jaw tightened with anger. "Where were you going?" Jiwon asked quietly. "Anywhere, nowhere. We hope to find an empty world, somewhere to hide. But our ship was damaged when Drakthal scouts found us 2 weeks ago. We barely escaped." Thillis looked directly at Jiwon. "Why did you help us?" "You don't know us. We have nothing to offer you." Jiwon stood up. "Because you needed help." "That's enough." She walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. Behind her, she heard Thillis begin to weep quietly. She thought about Earth, about the colonies humanity had built over the last century. They had room. They had resources. But they also had rules, protocols, Procedures? First contact was supposed to be careful, measured, and approved by the Council. She tapped her communication badge. Jiwan to Ambassador Siyun. A voice crackled through. Go ahead, Captain. I need you to prepare an emergency session with Earth Council. We have refugees who need sanctuary, and I'm recommending we offer them protection on Meridian 7. There was a long pause. Captain, you know that decision isn't ours to make alone. The political implications, I know, Jawan interrupted. But I'm making the recommendation anyway. These people have lost everything. They're being hunted. We have the power to save them, so we should. Another pause. I'll set up the call. But Jiwan, if we do this, we might make enemies of this Drakthal Empire. Then we'll deal with that when it comes. The call to Earth took 3 days because of the distance. Jiwan kept the Velrin aboard the Dauntless, feeding them and treating their injuries. She watched as they slowly began to trust the humans around them. Children emerged from hiding, curious about these strange new beings who showed them kindness. When the Council finally responded, Suyun delivered the news personally. Jiwan stood on the bridge with Phyllis beside her. The vote was close, Suyun said, but the Council has approved. The Velrin are welcome on Meridian 7. We're offering full refugee status and protection. Phyllis made a sound that the translator couldn't process, but Jawan understood it anyway. It was the sound of hope. There's one more thing, Suyun continued. The Council wants me to make something clear to keep Phyllis. Once the Velrin accept our protection, they fall under human law and human defense. If anyone threatens them, they threaten us. Jiwan looked at Delis. Do you understand? We're not just offering you a home. We're offering our protection. All of it. Why would you do this for strangers? Phyllis asked. Jiwan smiled. Because once you're on Meridian 7, you won't be strangers anymore. You'll be our neighbors. Our friends. And we protect our friends. She extended her hand. Phyllis looked at it, then carefully took it in their own 3-fingered grip. No one harms those under our protection, Jawan said firmly. No one. She didn't know it then, but those words would echo across the galaxy in the months to come. They would become a promise, a warning, and ultimately a declaration of war. 6 months had passed since the Velrin arrived on Meridian 7. The colony had changed in ways no one expected. The main settlement now had 2 distinct architectural styles blending together. Human buildings stood alongside Velrin structures that looked like they had been grown from the ground itself. In the fields outside the city, Velrin farmers worked beside human colonists. Sharing techniques that had increased crop yields by 40%, Admiral Taejin walked through the market district, watching Velrin children chase human children through the stalls. Vendors sold both Earth vegetables and Velrin grain. People laughed together, traded stories, and built something new. It made him smile, but also worried. Good things often attracted bad attention. Boyoung, a young liaison officer, caught up with him. She had been one of the first humans to learn the Velrin language fluently. Admiral, we have a situation. What kind? 3 ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They're not responding to hails, but their transponders identify them as Drakthal Empire vessels. Taijin's smile vanished. Sound the alert. Get all civilians to shelters. Bring the defense fleet to ready status. 20 minutes later, Taijin stood in the command center, watching the 3 massive warships approach. They looked brutal and efficient, covered in weapons and armor plating. Each ship was twice the size of his largest cruiser. A communication request came through. Taejin accepted it. The face that appeared on the screen was nightmarish. The Drakthal had reptilian features, with scales the color of rust and eyes like yellow flames. Rows of sharp teeth filled its mouth. The creature wore armor covered in what looked like trophies from previous battles. I am Warlord Krathix of the Drakthal Empire, the creature growled. You harbor property that belongs to us. Surrender the Velrin and we will leave in peace. Taejin kept his voice steady. I am Admiral Taejin of the Meridian Defense Fleet. The Velrin are not property. They are refugees under the protection of the United Space Coalition. We will not surrender anyone. Krathix laughed, a horrible sound. You misunderstand your position, human. We do not ask permission. We take what is ours. The Velrun are conquered slaves. They belong to the Empire. Not anymore. They're free people living on a human colony. They're under our protection? Then you choose war? Krathix leaned forward. How foolish. We have crushed 100 species. You are nothing. Surrender the Velrun within 1 solar rotation, or we will cleanse your colony and take them anyway. The communication ended abruptly. Taejin took a deep breath and activated the emergency channel to Earth. This was beyond his authority. Now, Counselor Yunji arrived on Meridian 7 3 days later aboard a diplomatic vessel. She insisted on trying to negotiate. Taejin didn't think it would work, but he supported the attempt. If they could avoid bloodshed, they should try. The meeting took place in neutral space, aboard a small station built specifically for the negotiation. Yunji brought a security team. Krathix brought warriors, carrying weapons that looked designed to cause maximum pain. Taejin watched the negotiation through a live feed from the command center. Boyan stood beside him, translating the subtle meanings in Krathix's body language that she had learned from Phyllis. Ambassador Yunji, Krathix said, lounging in his chair like a predator at rest, let me explain reality to you. The strong rule. The weak serve. This is universal law. The Velrun are weak. They exist to serve stronger species. By harboring them, you interfere with natural order. We don't accept that philosophy, Yunji replied calmly. Every sapient being has the right to freedom and self-determination. Krathix snorted. Such naive thoughts. Tell me, human, what gives you the right to decide this? Your species is new to the galaxy. You have no power, no influence, no fear from others. You are children playing at politics. We have the right because the Velrun asked for our help and we chose to give it? That's all the justification we need. Then you are fools. Krathix stood up. The Drakville Empire spans 200 systems. We have warships beyond counting. We have ground troops that have conquered worlds you cannot imagine. What do you have? A handful of colonies and 1 small fleet? Yunji stood as well. We have something you don't understand. Principles worth fighting for. Principles die quickly in fire. Krathix's eyes gleamed. I will give you 1 more chance, Ambassador. Surrender the Velrun, pay tribute to the Empire, and accept our authority in this sector. Do this, and we will allow your colonies to exist as vassals. No, the word hung in the air. Krathix stared at Yunji as if she had spoken in an unknown language. No? He repeated. The Velrun stay with us. We pay no tribute. We accept no foreign authority. If you want them, you'll have to go through us. Back in the command center, Boyang whispered. He's about to attack. His scales are darkening. That's a rage response. On screen, Krathix smiled, showing all his teeth. So be it. You have chosen extinction. My fleet will return in 7 solar rotations with reinforcements. We will destroy your colony, take the Velrun, and sell your survivors in the slave markets as a warning to others. This is the price of defying the Drakville Empire. The connection ended. Yunji returned to Meridian 7 within hours. She looked shaken but determined. He meant every word, she told Taejin. They're coming with everything they have? Then we prepare. Taejin brought up tactical displays. I've already sent requests to Earth Command. The 3rd and 7th fleets are mobilizing. They'll be here in 5 days. Will it be enough? I don't know. But we're not abandoning the Velrun. We made a promise. That evening, Boyang stood with Phyllis on an observation deck, watching the sunset over Meridian 7. The Velrun leader looked worried. You should send us away, Phyllis said quietly. We are not worth war. That's not your decision to make, Boyang replied. We offer protection. We meant it, but your people will die fighting for us. Boyang turned to face Phyllis directly. Maybe, but that's what you do for friends. You stand with them, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Phyllis's eyes glistened. I do not understand your species. The Drakthul would never do this. No species we know would risk so much for strangers. Then maybe it's time the galaxy learned a different way. Boyang smiled. Besides, you're not strangers anymore. You're family. The next day, Taijan authorized a galaxy-wide broadcast. Boyang helped him record it in both human languages and Velrin. The message was simple, but it would reach every species with communication technology within 2 weeks. This is Admiral Taijan of the United Space Coalition. We are sending this message to all species and governments in the galaxy. Humanity stands with its friends. The Velrin people are under our protection. Any attack on them is an attack on us. Any threat to them is a threat to us. We will defend them with every resource we have. This is not a negotiation. This is a promise. Humanity keeps its promises. The message transmitted across space at light speed, carried by relay stations and communication buoys. It would take time to reach the far corners of the galaxy, but it would get there eventually. Krathix heard the message aboard his flagship and laughed. The humans think words will save them. They will learn. Fire teaches better lessons than speeches. But across the galaxy, other species heard those words. Some dismissed them as the foolish bravado of a young civilization. Others listened more carefully, remembering old legends about species that fought not for conquest, but for ideals. A few began to wonder if something was changing in the galaxy, if a new voice was speaking. One that said different things than the voices of empire and domination. On Meridian 7, the colonists prepared for war. But they didn't send the Velrin away. Instead, they built shelters together, humans and Velrin working side by side. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Fleet Commander Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of the battleship Resolute, watching 37 human warships form a defensive wall around Meridian 7. Behind him, the planet glowed blue and green, home to 200,000 humans and 20,000 Velrin. Ahead, empty space waited for the enemy. Status report, he ordered. All ships in position, reported his tactical officer. Weapons charged, shields at maximum. The 3rd Fleet is holding the high orbit. The 7th Fleet is guarding the lower approach vectors. Captain Yuna's stealth destroyers are hidden in the asteroid field. Ji-hoon nodded. And the civilians? Underground shelters are at capacity. All Velrin are secure. We're as ready as we can be. The words hung heavy. Ready for what? They had never fought the Drakthul before. Intelligence reports suggested the enemy was bringing 50 warships, maybe more. The humans were outnumbered. Facing an empire that had conquered hundreds of worlds, a communication officer called out, "Sir, detecting faster-than-light signatures. Multiple contacts. They're arriving." Space twisted and tore. One by one, Drakthul warships appeared like metal sharks emerging from dark water. Ji-hoon counted them silently. 20, 30, 40, the numbers kept climbing. When the fleet finished arriving, 67 enemy warships hung in space, each one bristling with weapons. They brought more than expected, someone muttered. Doesn't matter, Ji-hoon said firmly. Our job stays the same. Protect Meridian 7. A communication request came through from the Drakthul flagship. Krathix appeared on screen, his yellow eyes gleaming with confidence. So the humans found courage after all. I am almost impressed. Krathix gestured to his fleet. But courage without wisdom is just stupidity. You are outnumbered nearly 2 to 1. Your ships are smaller. Your weapons are untested against real warriors. Surrender now, and I will only enslave half your colony. Ji-hoon remained calm. This is your last chance to leave peacefully. Turn your ships around and we won't pursue. Stay, and you'll regret it. Krathix laughed. You threaten me? I have conquered 50 species. I have burned 1,000 worlds. What have you done, human? We've made a promise. Ji-hoon's voice turned cold. And we're about to keep it. He cut the transmission and activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Fleet Commander Ji-hoon. Today we fight not for conquest or glory. We fight because people who trust us need our protection. We fight because the strong should defend the weak, not prey on them. We fight because it's right. Show these predators what humanity does to bullies. Weapons free. The space between the fleets erupted with light and fire. The Dractyl charged forward in a wedge formation, the way they always did. Their tactics relied on overwhelming force and intimidation. They expected the humans to break formation, to panic, to scatter. Instead, the human fleet split into 3 coordinated groups. The 3rd fleet moved up, the 7th moved down, and the center group held position. The Dractyl wedge suddenly found itself caught in a triangle of fire, railgun rounds. Accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, tore through Dractyl shields like paper. The enemy had never faced kinetic weapons moving so fast. Their energy shields, designed to disperse heat and radiation, did nothing against solid metal traveling at relativistic speeds. 3 Dractyl cruisers exploded in the first 30 seconds. "Target their command ships," Jihun ordered. "Cut off their coordination." Plasma torpedoes streaked across the void, leaving trails of superheated gas. They slammed into Dractyl vessels, melting through armor and detonating inside the hulls. The enemy returned fire, but their energy weapons scattered across human shield systems that had been designed specifically to counter them. Humanity had studied every recorded Dractyl battle. They knew the enemy's weapons, tactics, and weaknesses. The Dractyl didn't know anything about human capabilities. They were learning, but learning in battle is paid for in blood. "Enemy flagship turning to port," called out the tactical officer. "They're trying to flank us." "Let them," Jihun smiled coldly. "Captain Yuna, you're clear to engage." In the asteroid field, Captain Yuna received the order aboard her stealth destroyer Vigilant. Around her, 9 more stealth ships decloaked simultaneously. The Dractyl had no idea they were there. "All ships, lock on command vessels. Fire on my mark." Yuna watched her targeting computer paint red diamonds on 6 Dractyl command ships. "Mark!" Antimatter missiles erupted from the stealth destroyers. The Dractyl detected them too late. 6 command ships vanished in flashes of total annihilation as matter met antimatter and converted entirely to energy. The explosions were so bright that sensors across the battlefield automatically dimmed to protect viewers. The Dractyl fleet fell into chaos. Without their command ships, squadron leaders contradicted each other. Ships collided trying to reform. The perfect wedge became a confused mob. "Press the advantage," Jihun ordered. "All fleet, focus fire on their heavy cruisers." The human ships moved like dancers, each one knowing exactly where the others would be. Their electronic warfare systems jammed Dractyl communications, spoofed their sensors, and fed false targeting data to their weapons. Humanity had entered space prepared for enemies, and they had trained for this. An observation ship from the Quarren Collective watched from a safe distance. Observer Velis recorded everything with growing shock. His species had been neutral for 5,000 years, observing galactic conflicts without taking sides. But he had never seen anything like this. "Incredible," he whispered to his recording device. "The humans fight with mathematical precision. Every shot is calculated. Every movement has purpose. They waste nothing. The Dractyl are warriors. The humans are soldiers. There's a difference." The battle raged for 4 hours. The Dractyl fought hard, but desperation replaced confidence. They tried to retreat, but human ships pursued, cutting off escape routes. Krathix's flagship, damaged and burning, attempted to ram a human cruiser in a final act of defiance. Captain Yuna's Vigilant intercepted it. A railgun round punched through the flagship's reactor. The ship went dark, dead in space. "Cease fire," Jihun ordered. "Hail the remaining Dractyl vessels." 23 enemy ships remained operational. The rest were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had lost 4 ships and sustained moderate damage to a dozen others. By any standard, it was an overwhelming victory. Jihun's face appeared on every Dractyl screen. "This is Fleet Commander Jihun. You came to our home to threaten people under our protection. We warned you. Now you know we meant it. Surrender, and you'll be treated according to the laws of war. Fight, and we'll finish this. One by one, the Drakthal ships lowered their weapons and submitted. Jihoon watched their life pods launch toward human rescue ships. Even now, even after everything, they would save enemy survivors. That was the human way. Observer Velis transmitted his report to the Galactic Assembly. His voice shook slightly. I have witnessed the humans' first major battle. The Drakthal Empire sent 67 warships against 37 human vessels. 44 Drakthal ships were destroyed or disabled. Human casualties were minimal. But here is what truly shocked me. After the battle, the humans rescued Drakthal survivors. They provided medical care to wounded enemies. They treated prisoners with dignity. He paused, collecting his thoughts. The galaxy must understand what we saw today. Humanity fights with terrifying efficiency. Their weapons are devastating. Their tactics are brilliant. But they also fight with restraint and mercy. They could have killed every Drakthal. They chose not to. This species is dangerous, yes, but not in the way we expected. They're dangerous to predators, to slavers, to tyrants. But to those who seek peace, they might be the greatest allies anyone could ask for. On Meridian 7, celebrations filled the streets. Humans and Velran danced together, laughing and crying with relief. Phyllis found Boyang in the crowd and embraced her. You kept your promise, Taylor said. Your people died to protect mine. Not many, Boyang replied sadly. But yes, some did. They knew what they were fighting for. Above them, the human fleet maintained its vigil. Jihoon stood on his bridge, watching the planet below. His communications officer approached hesitantly. Sir, we're receiving thousands of messages from across the galaxy. Other species, some we've never heard of. They're asking if we would protect them too. Jihoon closed his eyes. Forward them to Earth Command. This is bigger than one fleet now. He looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Drakthal Empire was learning that humanity had arrived in the galaxy. But humanity was also learning something about itself. They had found their purpose among the stars, not to conquer, but to protect. Not to dominate, but to defend, the line had been drawn. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had shown them exactly what would happen to anyone who crossed that line. 3 months after the Battle of Meridian 7, Ambassador Junho stood before the Galactic Assembly for the first time. The massive chamber held representatives from 214 species, each with their own interests, fears, and ambitions. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with suspicion, a few with hope. Members of the Assembly, Junho began, his voice calm and steady. Humanity comes before you not as conquerors or empire builders. We come as defenders of a simple principle. The strong should protect the weak, not exploit them. A representative from the Vexian Confederacy, a species of insectoid traders, clicked its mandibles in what the translator interpreted as skepticism. You destroyed a Drakthal fleet. Now you claim to be peaceful? Words and actions do not match, human. We never claimed to be pacifist, Junho replied. We claimed to protect those under our care. The Drakthal attacked refugees we had sheltered. We responded. That's not aggression. That's keeping a promise. A promise that has consequences? Said another representative, this one from the Korath Empire. A predatory species similar to the Drakthal. Your actions have disrupted the balance of power. Species that once knew their place now think they can resist their betters. Junho turned to face the Korath directly. If by knowing their place you mean accepting slavery, then yes, we've disrupted that. And we'll keep disrupting it. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species praised humanity's stance. Others condemned it as naive or dangerous. A few remained silent, calculating how this new power might affect their own plans. The assembly speaker. An ancient being from a species so old they claimed to have been in space before most others had fire, raised one crystalline appendage for silence. This debate can continue forever. What we need to know is this: what are humanity's intentions? Will you become the next great empire, ruling through military might while claiming moral superiority? Jin Hun Ho took a breath. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. No, we won't build an empire, but we will offer protection to any species that asks for it, provided they commit to peaceful coexistence with others. We're proposing an alliance of free peoples, a coalition based on mutual defense and cooperation, not domination. And who leads this alliance? The speaker asked. No one leads. We coordinate, share resources, defend each other. But each species remains sovereign over their own worlds and decisions. 4 species immediately requested to join, then 7 more. By the end of the session, 18 different species had expressed interest in humanity's protection. The galaxy was changing, and no one was sure where it would end. Back on Earth, General Hound reviewed intelligence reports with growing concern. She sat in the United Defense Command Center, surrounded by displays showing troop movements, ship production, and strategic analysis. The Drakthal aren't done, she told the Council via secure transmission. We hurt them badly, but we didn't break them. Intelligence suggests Supreme General Vernax is assembling a revenge fleet. They're pulling ships from across their empire. How many ships? Asked a council member. Estimates range from 150 to 150 warships. They're also hiring mercenary fleets. This isn't a raid. This is total war. The council chamber went silent. Finally, the head counselor spoke. Can we win against those numbers? I don't know, Hound admitted. Our technology is superior, but numbers matter. We need to expand our fleet immediately. We need to call up reserves. And we need the allied species to contribute. Will they fight? Before Hound could answer, another communication came through. It was Keeper Thillis, calling from Meridian 7. General Hound, the Velrin wished to speak with you about military matters. Thillis appeared on screen, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood dozens of Velrin, all wearing what looked like combat gear. General, you protected us when we had nothing to offer in return. Now the enemy comes again, and we refuse to hide while humans fight for us. The Velrin volunteer to join your military. We may not be warriors by nature, but we can learn. We can fight. We will fight. Hound felt her throat tighten with emotion. Keeper Thillis, you don't have to do this. Yes, we do. You stood with us. Now we stand with you. Within days, similar messages arrived from other species. The Caliph, a species of avian engineers, offered to help build ships. The Morian, who had fled slavery themselves, volunteered ground troops. The Selm, aquatic beings with advanced sensor technology, joined the fleet with their specialized scanning vessels. JUNHO worked tirelessly to organize them into a coherent alliance. It wasn't easy. Different species had different needs, different fighting styles, different technologies, but slowly, carefully, he wove them together. Dr. Hinwu found himself coordinating the integration of alien troops into human military units. He stood in a training facility on Mars, watching Velrin soldiers practice with human weapons instructors. They're learning fast, the training sergeant told him. They don't have our reflexes, but they're smart and disciplined. Give them 6 months, and they'll be solid soldiers? We might not have 6 months, Yunwu replied quietly. The sergeant nodded grimly. Then we'll train them in 3. On the border systems, scout ships brought back troubling news. The Drakthal were indeed gathering their forces, but something else was happening too. Species within Drakthal territory were rebelling. Slave worlds were rising up. Supply lines were being attacked. They're fighting back, Mina reported during a strategic meeting. She had been promoted to captain after the Battle of Meridian 7 and now led reconnaissance operations. Dozens of subject species are in open revolt. The Drakthal are having to divert resources to hold their own territory. Are we behind this? Asked a council member. JUNHO smiled slightly. Let's say that certain rebel groups have found crates of weapons appearing in convenient locations, and that they've received technical advice through untraceable channels. We're not actively invading Drakthal space, but we're certainly supporting those who want their freedom. That's a dangerous game, warned another council member. If the Drakthal can prove we're arming rebels, they'll claim justification for total war. They already want total war, Junho countered. At least this way, their forces are divided. And more importantly, species are fighting for their own freedom. We're not conquering the Drakthal Empire. We're helping it tear itself apart from within. General Hound stood before a massive assembly of human military personnel. The hall held 50,000 soldiers, sailors, and pilots, with millions more watching via broadcast. I won't lie to you, she said, her voice carrying to every corner. We're facing the largest military threat in human history. The Drakthal are coming with everything they have. They outnumber us. They have more experience. They're going to try to break us. She paused, letting that sink in. But we have something they don't. We have a reason to fight that goes beyond conquest or pride. We fight for people who trust us. We fight for refugees who we promise to protect. We fight for the idea that the galaxy can be better than it is, that might doesn't make right, that kindness isn't weakness. She looked across the assembled forces. The Drakthal think we're soft. They think our mercy is a flaw. They're about to learn the truth. We show mercy to the weak and defeated. But to those who threaten the innocent, to predators who prey on refugees, to empires built on slavery? Her voice hardened. We show them exactly how dangerous compassion can be when it's backed by righteous fury. The hall erupted in cheers. Hound let them cheer, knowing they would need that spirit in the days ahead. In the Drakthal capital, Supreme General Vernax addressed his assembled fleet commanders. His scales were dark with rage, his eyes burning with hatred. The humans embarrassed us, he snarled. They destroyed our ships. They humiliated us before the galaxy. They dare to shelter our slaves and arm our subjects. This cannot stand. He slammed his clawed hand on the table. I am assembling the largest war fleet in Drakthal history. 212 warships. 30,000 ground troops. We will crush Meridian 7. We will enslave every human we find. We will make an example of them so terrifying that no species will ever defy us again. His commanders roared approval. But one voice remained silent, one junior officer who had survived the first battle. He said nothing, but he remembered the human fleet's precision, their mercy toward prisoners, their willingness to die for others. He wondered if Vernax truly understood what they were facing. As both sides prepared for war, G1, now promoted to Commodore, stood on the observation deck of her battle group flagship. She looked out at the dozens of ships under her command, human and alien vessels now fighting together. Thylas joined her, wearing the uniform of the Alliance military. Do you think we can win? The Velron asked. G1 thought carefully before answering. I think we can do something better than win. We can show the galaxy that there's another way. That strength can be used to protect, not oppress. That different species can stand together instead of against each other. Win or lose, that message will survive. That's very philosophical, Phyllis said with what might have been a smile. But do you think we can win? Jiwan grinned. Oh, yes. We're going to kick their asses so hard they'll feel it for generations. Above them, the stars waited. Somewhere out there, the Drakthal fleet was coming. The Outer Rim system held nothing special, a dying red star, 2 worthless planets, and an asteroid field. But it sat on the border between human space and Drakthal territory. This was where Supreme General Vernax chose to make his statement. This was where he would teach the galaxy what happened to those who defied the Drakthal Empire. Grand Admiral Insu watched the enemy fleet arrive on his tactical display. He stood in the command center of the Indomitable, humanity's largest battleship, surrounded by officers from a dozen different species. The display showed 212 red icons representing Drakthal warships. Against them, humanity fielded 73 human vessels and 50 allied ships. The numbers favored the enemy nearly 2-1. All ships report ready, said his operations officer. Insu studied the formation. The Drakthal came in one massive wall, overwhelming force meant to break any defense through sheer numbers. It was their standard tactic, and it had worked for centuries, But Insu wasn't fighting a standard battle. Commodore Jiwan, status of Battle Group Theta? Jiwan's voice came through clearly from her flagship 20,000 kilometers away. All ships in position, Admiral. We're ready to dance? Captain Mena, what about the strike force? Mina responded from her assault carrier. Boarding teams locked and loaded. Just give the word. Dr. Yunwoo, how are our allied squadrons? Hyunwoo, now serving as coordinator for the multi-species fleet, checked his reports. Velran scouts are in forward positions. Sound sensors are tracking every enemy ship. Caliph engineers have our shield networks running at peak efficiency. Morian shock troops are standing by. Sir, everyone's ready? They all want to be here. Insu allowed himself a small smile. Then let's show them what unity looks like. The Drakthal fleet charged forward, and Vornax's face appeared on every human screen. His scales were almost black with rage, his teeth bared in a snarl. You should have surrendered, humans. Now you die. Your worlds will burn. Your people will scream. And the galaxy will remember what happens to those who defy the Drakthal Empire. Insu responded calmly. To all who would threaten those under humanity's protection, we gave you a warning. You didn't listen. Now you face our fury. He cut the transmission and activated the fleet-wide channel. All units, execute Operation Thunderstrike. The human fleet scattered in what looked like panic. The Drakthal roared with triumph, thinking their enemy was breaking. Vernax pressed his advantage. Ordering his ships forward at maximum speed, they flew directly into the trap. Suddenly, space erupted with fire from positions the Drakthal hadn't detected. Minefields, activated remotely, tore through the leading edge of their formation. 30 ships took damage in the first 10 seconds. Before they could recover, Jiwan's battle group struck their left flank like a hammer. Railgun fire punched through shields and armor. Plasma torpedoes melted hull plating. The human ships moved in perfect coordination, each one covering the others, creating overlapping fields of fire that nothing could survive. Target their capital ships, Insu ordered. Cut off the head. Throughout the fleet, human vessels focused fire on Drakthal command cruisers. The allied ships supported them, each species contributing their specialty. Velran scouts fed targeting data with incredible precision. Sound sensor ships jammed Drakthal communications. Caliph engineering vessels strengthened human shields at critical moments. Morian fighters swarmed enemy carriers, overwhelming their defenses through sheer tenacity. Vornax watched his formation collapse and screamed orders to regroup, but his communications were scrambled by sound technology. His tactical displays were spoofed by human electronic warfare. His ships received contradictory commands, creating chaos instead of coordination. They're inside our networks? One of his commanders shouted. They're feeding us false data. Then fight manually. Use visual targeting. Vornax's claws tore gouges in his command chair. All ships ramming speed. Close to point-blank range. Our numbers will overwhelm them. It was a desperate tactic, but it might have worked against a lesser enemy. The Drakthal fleet surged forward, abandoning formation entirely. Trying to swarm the humans in a massive brawl, Mina saw the opening. This is Captain Mena to all boarding teams. Enemy shields are down on multiple vessels. Go, go, go. 20 assault carriers launched hundreds of boarding pods. They slammed into Drakthal ships like bullets, punching through weakened armor and disgorging combat troops directly into enemy vessels. Human Marines and Morian shock troops fought side by side in the corridors of enemy ships. Moving room by room, deck by deck, the Drakthal were fierce warriors in personal combat, but they had never faced human close-quarters battle tactics. Marines used explosives, room-clearing protocols, and coordinated fire teams. Within an hour, Mina's forces had captured 12 enemy vessels and disabled 17 more from the inside. Jiwan's battle group executed its next maneuver. Her ships broke away from the main battle and circled behind the Drakthal fleet, cutting off their supply ships and support vessels. Without ammunition replenishment and repair capability, the Drakthal's numerical advantage began to evaporate. Their logistics are collapsing, Jawan reported. They can't sustain this fight much longer. Insu watched the battle unfold across his displays. The tactical situation was turning, but it was costing lives. Human ships were taking damage. Allied vessels were being destroyed. Every victory was paid for in blood. All ships pressed the attack. Don't give them time to regroup. The human fleet drove forward like a spear, punching through the center of the Dracthal formation. They weren't trying to destroy every enemy ship. They were targeting specific vessels, command ships, communication relays, flagship escorts. They were systematically dismantling the enemy's ability to function as a coherent force. Vornax realized too late what was happening. The humans weren't fighting a battle of attrition. They were fighting a surgical strike designed to cripple his fleet's command structure. And it was working. Fall back, he ordered. Reform at Rally Point 7. But there was no Rally Point 7 anymore. Guan's battle group had destroyed the navigation beacons. Dracthal ships trying to retreat flew into minefields or were picked off by waiting human cruisers. The organized fleet became scattered groups of survivors trying to escape. They're breaking, Yunwu reported, his voice tight with exhaustion. The Dracthal are fleeing. Insu's finger hovered over the order to pursue, to chase down the retreating enemy and destroy them completely. It would be easy. It would be justified. It would send a message, but it wouldn't be human. All ships cease offensive operations. Allow enemy vessels to withdraw. Medical teams prepare to receive wounded from both sides. Some of his officers looked shocked. A few looked relieved. One young lieutenant asked, "Sir, shouldn't we finish them?" Insu turned to face him. "We're not here to commit genocide. We're here to defend. The Dracthal know now what it costs to attack us. That's enough." Vornax's flagship was burning. His bridge was damaged, half his crew dead. He stared at the screen showing human ships recovering their wounded and even moving to rescue Dracthal escape pods. It made no sense. He had come to destroy them utterly, yet they showed mercy. "Why don't they finish us?" asked his surviving tactical officer. Vornax had no answer. His empire had been built on total victory or total defeat. He understood neither mercy nor restraint. But as he watched human ships pull his warriors from damaged vessels, something inside him cracked. "Retreat," he said quietly. "Get whoever we can out of here." Of the 212 Dracthal ships that entered the system, only 63 escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured. The human fleet lost 18 vessels and the Allied fleet lost 14. Thousands had died, but tens of thousands had been saved. Observer Velis from the Koran Collective had watched everything from his recording ship. His report to the Galactic Assembly would be played for centuries to come. "Today I witnessed the largest space battle in recorded history. The humans and their allies faced an enemy fleet twice their size. They won through superior tactics, coordination, and the integration of multiple species working as one. But what will be remembered most is what happened after." His voice grew stronger. The humans could have slaughtered the retreating Dracthal. Instead, they rescued survivors. They provided medical care to enemy wounded. They treated prisoners with dignity. And when asked why, Grand Admiral Insu said simply, "We defend." "We don't butcher," Velis paused, emotion creeping into his normally neutral tone. "The galaxy has spent millennia believing that power comes from cruelty, that strength means domination. Humanity has shown us something different. They fight with fury when protecting others, but with mercy when the battle is won. They are dangerous beyond measure to predators, yet they are the safest allies one could hope for." His final words echoed across every civilization that received the report. The Dracthal Empire is broken. Other predator species are reconsidering their ways. And dozens of species are requesting to join the Alliance of Free Peoples. Humanity has changed the galaxy not through conquest, but through example. On Meridian 7, celebrations filled the streets for a week. Humans and Velrin danced together. Other allied species joined them, creating a festival of unity that would become an annual tradition. G1 and Thelis stood together on a hillside.